20 years ago, while I was pregnant with our third child, a scan revealed I was also carrying a female child. But due to the threats and pressure from your family and yourself to marry another wife who could give you a male child if I still birthed a female child after having two already, I decided to do something drastic. In order to save my marriage, I connived with a nurse and exchanged the female baby after birth with another woman's male child, Mrs. Eze said, to the amazement of all the people present. The Eze family was wealthy and known for their grand mansion, luxury cars, and influence in high society. Mr. Eze was a successful businessman, often away on business trips, leaving the household under the care of his wife, Mrs. Eze. They have 3 children, Adora the eldest at age 25, Chidima the second daughter at age 23, and Ikechukwu the youngest son at age 20. While Adora was kind-hearted and responsible, Chidima and Ikechukwu were known for their reckless and carefree lifestyle and often go about causing troubles and maltreated their domestic workers, but never got reprimanded by their mother because her own character was not better than that of her kids. After sacking so many maids in the past due to their unending wickedness and maltreatment, the family finally employed a young maid, Nkechi, who was just 20 years old. Nkechi had come to work for the Ezes to support her own family, who lived in a less affluent part of the city. Life for Nkechi in the Eze household was challenging, to say the least. Chidima and Ikechukwu often mistreated her, viewing her as nothing more than a servant. Mrs. Eze, who held herself above the servants, showed little concern for Nkechi's well-being, often ignoring the maltreatment and even contributing to it. Adora, however, was different from her mother and siblings. She treated Nkechi with kindness, sometimes stepping in to protect her from Chidima and Ikechukwu's cruelty. Despite the hardships, Nkechi remained resilient, performing her duties diligently and holding onto the hope that her hard work would one day pay off. As the days passed, the tension in the Eze household grew. Chidima and Ikechukwu continued their reckless behavior, partying late into the night and spending their parents' money without a second thought. Mr. Eze, always busy with work, rarely noticed the problems at home, while Mrs. Eze turned blind eyes to the chaos, focusing more on maintaining her social status. Ikechukwu and Chidima made life a living hell for Nkechi. One fateful evening, the rest of the family members had gone out, and for whatever reason, Ikechukwu decided to stay back. Nkechi was in her room taking a short rest after finishing her chores when she noticed her door opened. She quickly stood up, and before she could say or ask any question, Ikechukwu grabbed her and tried to force himself on her. Luckily, she was able to break free from him and ran out into the compound. Ikechukwu followed suit, but Nkechi, maintaining a distance, lashed out at him. "If you come any close to me, I will break your balls," she warned, trying to look for any available object to use as a weapon to scare him off. "You should be happy I'm even interested in a pig like you. I just felt like managing you, and instead of you being happy and spreading your body wide for me, you are here acting up," Ikechukwu said, maintaining a safe distance after seeing the weapon already picked up by Nkechi for self-defense. Later that night, when the rest of the family members returned, Nkechi tried to report the incident to Mrs. Eze, but her words came shocking like a thunderbolt. "You should be grateful my precious son even took a second look at you. Talk more of wanting to have anything with you. Do you know how many girls who will give up their life just to have my son notice them?" she said, without any emotion in her voice. Not only was Nkechi shocked, but even Adora couldn't believe her ears. "Mom, how could you say something like that to someone else's child when you have daughters? How would you feel if someone tried to do something like that to either myself or Chidima?" Adora asked with disgust on her face. "No one will dare something like that to my children unless they are tired of living," Mrs. Eze said sternly, looking serious. "But your children can try something like that, and even worse on other people's children? Oh, I guess because they don't have anyone to fight or speak for them." Adora couldn't bear the disgusting characters her mother and siblings were exhibiting. As usual, she received backlash from her 2 younger siblings, who accused her of talking back at their mother because of a stranger. This wasn't a new thing for her. as she was already used to their disgusting behaviors. She couldn't but wonder why they behaved the way they did, as Nkechi happened to be the longest serving maid they ever had, as the previous ones left abruptly due to their maltreatment. Nkechi had endured them all this while because she was determined to save money for her education while also supporting her families. But at this point, she was beginning to wonder how long her patience and perseverance could take her. The Eze family, blinded by their wealth and status, was unaware that their lives were about to change forever. If only they had, just maybe, they might have done things differently. As the days went by, so did the daily routine of the Eze family household. Chidinma and Ikechukwu, who were fueled by their privileged upbringing, continued to indulge in their pleasure-seeking lifestyle. Their partying became more frequent, their nights longer, and their behavior increasingly reckless. They were the talk of the Lagos elite social circles, often seen in the most expensive clubs and restaurants, spending money as though it had no end. On several occasions, Mr. Eze had tried to caution his two children's lifestyle and urged them to imitate their elder sister, but all efforts fell on deaf ears because they kept getting support from their mother. One night, as usual, it was one of those extravagant events that Lagos high society looked forward to. Chidinma and Ikechukwu had been planning it for weeks. The party was to be held at one of the city's most exclusive venues, and they had spared no expense. The guest list included the who is who of Lagos, and the anticipation was high. Adora, as usual, was not interested in attending. She preferred quieter and more meaningful gatherings, and besides, she had no desire to be part of the reckless behavior that her siblings were indulging. Nkechi, as always, was tasked with helping Chidinma and Ikechukwu prepare for the night. She watched quietly as they dressed in their finest clothes, their excitement palpable. "Don't just stand there, Nkechi," Chidinma snapped as she fumbled with the clasps of her necklace. "Help me with this," she commanded. "Yes, ma," Nkechi replied softly, stepping forward to assist. Her hands trembled slightly as she fastened the necklace, but Chidinma didn't notice. Ikechukwu, already impatient, shouted from the hallway, "Are you two coming or not? The car is waiting." "We are coming. Stop rushing us," Chidinma retorted as she grabbed her purse and strutted out of the room with Nkechi trailing behind. The party went on late into the night, and it was nearly dawn when Chidinma and Ikechukwu finally decided to head home. They were both heavily intoxicated, their judgment clouded by the alcohol they had consumed. Against better advice, they decided to drive themselves home, convinced they were fine. "Are you sure you can drive?" Chidinma slurred as she climbed into the passenger seat, barely able to keep her eyes open. "Of course I can," Ikechukwu replied confidently, though his words were slightly slurred. "I have done this 1,000 times," he said proudly as he took up the steering. But as they sped down the empty streets, the inevitable happened. In their drunken state, they lost control of the car. The vehicle turned violently and crashed into a tree with a sickening thud. The sound of the screeching tires and shattering glass echoed through the night, and there was silence. It wasn't until the early hours of that morning that a call came into the Eze mansion. Mrs. Eze, who had been sleeping soundly, was jolted awake by the ringing of the phone. As the news of the accident was delivered, panic set in. "What do you mean they have had an accident?" Mrs. Eze gasped, clutching the phone tightly. "How bad is it?" she asked without hesitation. "They are both in a critical condition," the voice on the other end of the line replied, trying to remain calm. "You need to come to the hospital immediately," the voice said, and hung up. Mr. Eze, who had just returned from a business trip, rushed to the hospital with his wife. Adora followed closely behind, her heart pounding with fear. At the hospital, the scene was chaotic. Doctors and nurses rushed back and forth, and the Eze family was ushered into a waiting room. The minutes felt like hours as they waited for news. Finally, a doctor emerged, his expression expression grim. "Doctor, how are they?" Mr. Eze asked, his voice trembling. "They have both lost a lot of blood and we will need a transfusion," the doctor said calmly but with a serious tone. "We need to conduct blood tests on immediate family members to see if anyone is a match. That should be the best option at the moment," the doctor said and proceeded away in a hurry. After all the necessary arrangements were made, the blood tests were quickly carried out, and it was then that the first sign of trouble appeared. The doctor returned with the result, his brow furrowed in concern. "I'm afraid there is an issue," he began, glancing between Mr. and Mrs. Eze. "Adora is a match for Chidima, same as you both. But for your son, I'm sorry, but none of you match for his transfusion," he said with a concerned but stern look. "What do you mean?" Mr. Eze asked, confusion evident in his voice. "How can that be?" "It's unusual, but it happens," the doctor replied carefully. "Doctor, are you sure you checked and cross-checked again to be certain?" Mrs. Eze and Adora asked almost at the same time. The doctor went further to explain that everything was done properly and that the results were perfect. "For the meantime, I will suggest we find an alternative to get him the blood before thinking of any other thing," he said and excused himself. The room fell silent the moment the doctor walked out. It was so bad that one could even hear the sound of a pin drop on the floor. "Victoria, you and I know this can only mean one thing, that the child is not mine. In the name of everything you hold dear, I beg you to start talking right now. Who is the father to that boy?" Mr. Eze asked, his face visibly angry. "Dad, can we not do this right now, please? Chidima and Ikechukwu are still in there battling for their lives. We can do this later at home, but definitely not right now, please," Adora quickly chipped in, trying to calm the situation down. Mr. Eze, who was visibly angry and didn't want to act in a moment of anger, quickly gave a stern warning before leaving. "The only reason you should be returning back to my house is if you are ready to tell me who the father of that boy is," Mr. Eze warned. With that, he stormed out of the hospital. Adora looked at her mother with thousands of questions in her eyes. Mrs. Eze, who had been holding herself together with remarkable composure, felt a cold wave of fear wash over her. She knew what was at stake and silently prayed that the situation would resolve itself without further complications. Back at the Eze mansion, the atmosphere was tense that even a day-old baby could sense or feel something was wrong. Mrs. Eze insisted the child belonged to her husband and argued that she has never had anything to do with any other man since marrying him. "I swear with my life, I can't explain our blood not matching with that of our son, but I know for sure that I've never slept with any other man since after marrying you," she said amidst tears. "Then you leave me with no other choice but to run a paternity test. Heaven help you, because if I find out you are lying to me, I will make sure I destroy not just you but everything you hold dear," Mr. Eze warned sternly without any form of emotion in his voice. 2 days later, Mrs. Eze visited the family doctor and offered to pay him a large sum of money if he would work the paternity test in her favor. "I want you to do me a favor and alter the test results, please. I will compensate you handsomely. Lots of things are at stake here, and it's only you who can save my family from being destroyed," Mrs. Eze pleaded calmly but with determination. Miraculously, the doctor agreed to the deal, and Mrs. Eze couldn't help but show her excitement. She was so happy and thanked the doctor, promising him more money and gifts if everything should go well. The day for the DNA test result collection came faster than expected. Mrs. Eze, though a little scared, was confident that all would go according to her plan. She had been tasked with going to pick the results from the hospital while the rest of the family waited. Adora prayed silently that everything would go well, because within her she could feel the tension building up and she didn't want her family to be destroyed for any reason. Back at the doctor's office, Mrs. Eze was so happy when the doctor gave her the result and told her he had done exactly as she requested. The joy in her eyes knew no bounds as she thanked the doctor by giving him more money before leaving. On getting home, she met all the family members sitting calmly and looking at the door as if waiting for the judge of the universe to come in for judgment. She walked in with a little excitement written all over her face. I have got the result here with me. Here, take a look. She handed the white sealed envelope to her husband. Mr. Eze stretched his hand and collected the envelope without uttering any word. Rather, he put up a cunning smile. He proceeded to open the envelope but paused. Victoria, before I proceed to read the result, are you sure you don't want to tell me anything? Mrs. Eze, shocked but still composed, asked in confusion. Tell you what, my husband, I don't understand your question, she said innocently. Mr. Eze smiled cunningly and then proceeded to open the envelope, and according to the result before them, he wasn't the biological father to Ikechukwu. Mrs. Eze couldn't believe her ears nor her eyes. She had trusted the doctor so much that she didn't bother to check the results before bringing it to her husband, and now it's obvious there was no escape for her. The atmosphere in the living room became tense, from Ikechukwu asking his mother why she did what she did, to Mr. Eze accusing his wife of infidelity to the point of bringing another man's child home to him, down to Adora and Chidima crying. Nkechi, who had been standing a reasonable distance from the sitting room, could clearly hear everything being discussed and was in complete bewilderment. By the time I returned, I do not want to see you nor your bastard son in my house, Mr. Eze threatened and got up to leave the room, but was held back by a crying Mrs. Eze. I have never cheated on you. Please believe me, she said amidst hot tears. Then how can you explain this boy not being my son? You cannot say the result is fake because you clearly know he is not my son, and that was why you decided to bribe the doctor to give a fake result. But thank God he is a man of integrity, Eze thundered back at her. Please believe me, I never cheated, but I did something worse than cheating. She finally dropped the bomb. The air in the room came alive once again, with everyone opening their ears wide to hear what she had to say. 20 years ago, while I was pregnant with our third child, a scan revealed I was also carrying a female child, but due to the threats and pressure from your family and yourself to marry another wife who could give you a male child if I still bettered the female child after having two already, I decided to do something drastic. In order to save my marriage, I connived with a nurse and exchanged the female baby after birth with another woman's male child, Mrs. Eze said, to the amazement of all the people present. Mom, how could you do such a thing? Are female children not human beings? Adora throws in at her mother with so much disgust on her face. Chidima just sat and cried, while Ikechukwu, realizing the people he had called family for 20 years were never truly his family, he wept bitterly. What if his real family happened to be poor? How could he keep up with his lifestyle or get to face his friends? What if they insisted on returning him to his real family? How could he cope? He thought to himself and cried even more. Mr. Eze was completely dumbfounded at the confession his wife just made. For a moment, he was completely lost for words and couldn't bring himself to speak. How could you do something so deadly? Even if you never cared about yourself, you couldn't even care about your child that you have left with a total stranger for the past 20 years. You don't even care to know how that child is faring, if she is seeing food to eat or not. You never cared about anybody but your selfish self, Mr. Eze said sadly. It wasn't my fault. You and your family wouldn't let me have a moment of peace just because I was giving birth to female children, and knowing I was still carrying another female child, I had to do everything I could to save myself from being kicked out of the house. Mrs. Eze continued to give reasons for her action without minding the gravity of what she had done. Nkechi, who was still listening to their conversation, couldn't believe her ears. A woman exchanging her baby for another baby simply because she didn't want to lose her marriage? How has she been able to live with such for the past 20 years? And if not how this issue was brought to life, she must have carried the secret down to her grave without any remorse. Nkechi couldn't help but wonder in disbelief. Poor child, if only God knows what she's passing through wherever she is, she concluded. I give you from now till the next 2 weeks to find my child. If not, that marriage you were so much scared to lose and could result resort to such cruel step to protect, you will not only lose it, but also your life, because I will make sure you go in for it. Mr. Eze threatened and left the living room. The atmosphere became so tense that one could hear the heartbeat of the next person seated beside them. Mrs. Eze tried to apologize to her children, but they wouldn't listen and stopped her from saying anything further. Mom, your action simply means we are not important as girls. Keep your apology to yourself and maybe use that energy to find our sister, both Adora and Chidima said before walking out of the living room. Mom, or what should I even call you now? Ikechukwu said in a sarcastic tone. Anyways, what will now happen to me? Because I'm not ready to be taken back to any poor family who will not be able to afford my lifestyle, he said, to the annoyance of Mrs. Eze, who did not hesitate to throw back at him. All these things are happening because of you. If you hadn't decided to be useless and had that car accident, there wouldn't have been any reason to do all the tests, which ended up bringing up the truth. Anyways, from what I gathered years back, your real family was poor, so you have to get your mind ready for whatever that is coming, Mrs. Eze said without any emotion in her voice. Being left alone in the living room, she thought to herself, 20 years ago, after dealing with the nurse, she decided to silence her forever in order to avoid any form of blackmail in the future. She didn't know a day would come when she would still need her help in locating the family of the child. Her husband had given her just 2 weeks and she knew he would never joke with his words. 2 days later, Eze, determined to find his daughter and return Ikechukwu to his rightful parent, sprang into action. The first step they took was going to the hospital where they gave birth 20 years ago. They narrated everything to the hospital management, who apologized for the bad behavior on the part of their staff, but promised to help them do anything they could to locate their daughter. The next step was retrieving the files of all the families who gave birth in the same hospital that same day. Then they set out in trying to locate each family. It was a very tiring step for Mr. Eze, but he was determined to solve the problem once and for all. After what seemed like eternity, they succeeded in locating each of the 5 families, and the next step was to conduct a DNA test to see which of the children matches Mr. Eze and his wife. It happened that Nkechi's family were among the family who also gave birth that same day in the hospital, and judging by Nkechi's age, she obviously matched the age range of the real child of the Ezes. She was summoned home by her parents so she could equally be taken to the designated hospital for the DNA test. On the day for the result reading, the whole 5 families gathered in the Eze's large living room, with everyone praying everything goes well so they could all return back to their normal lives. The doctor had read the first to the 4th result, yet none matched. He finally tore open the 5th envelope, and to everyone's amazement, it was Nkechi. She had been living with her biological parents all these years without even knowing. The shock on the Eze's family members' faces on realizing that the person they have been treating with so much wickedness was actually their real family. Mr. Eze thanked the other remaining 4 families and apologized for any inconvenience the whole process must have caused them. But before they left, he made sure to gift them. Now, left with his family and that of Nkechi's family, the atmosphere became quiet once again. Clearing his throat, Mr. Eze spoke calmly. We are in this situation today because of a silly game played by my wife 20 years ago. First of all, I want to apologize on her behalf, and then we can go ahead to find a way forward. Heaven indeed works in a mysterious ways. Somehow, he was able to still bring my daughter back to me even without me knowing. The family agreed the children be returned each to their rightful parent so they could bond and get to know each other. But to everyone's surprise, Nkechi said she would rather remain with the parents she had known all these years. I cannot afford to call this woman my mother. She is not worthy to be called a mother by anyone. Talk more of me, she added sadly. Her reaction was understandable because Mrs. Eze had treated her so badly throughout her stay working as a maid for the family. Ikechukwu also refused to acknowledge Nkechi's family as her family because, according to him, how will he be able to maintain his social status with such a family who couldn't even boast of a good house, nor any tangible source of income. At the end of the day, apologies were made and forgiveness happened, but Nkechi still insisted she needed time to process the whole thing and promised to return when she became mentally ready. Mr. Eze promised to sponsor her to any school of her choice and upgraded the living condition of her former family so she could be comfortable for the remaining time she would spend with them. Ikechukwu was also returned to his real parents against his wish, but Mr. Eze promised to be there for him whenever he needed anything. On the other hand, Mrs. Eze escaped her crime of silencing the nurse because she did the whole thing all alone without involving anyone, thereby limiting the chances of anyone ever discovering her crime. But we hope that one day karma catches up with her. Thank you for watching, and please let us know what you think about this story by dropping your opinion in the comment section. And for more stories like these, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. See you soon, and bye for now.